Open Heavens Daily Devotional. Date: Saturday, May 10, 2025. Topic: God's Call. Memorize. Let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. 1 Corinthians 7:20. Read 2 Chronicles 26, 3:21 KJV. 3:16 years old was Uzziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. 4 And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah did. 5 And he sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him to prosper. 6 And he went forth and warred against the Philistines, and brake down the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities about Ashdod, and among the Philistines. 7 And God helped him against the Philistines, and against the Arabians that dwelt in Gerbal, and the Mehunims. 8 And the Ammonites gave gifts to Uzziah, and his name spread abroad even to the entering in of Egypt, for he strengthened himself exceedingly. 9 Moreover Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the valley gate, and at the turning of the wall, and fortified them. 10 Also he built towers in the desert, and digged many wells, for he had much cattle, both in the low country, and in the plains, husbandmen also, and vine-dressers in the mountains, and in Carmel, for he loved husbandry. 11 Moreover Uzziah had an host of fighting men, that went out to war by bands, according to the number of their account by the hand of Jael the scribe and Maaseiah the ruler, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains. 12 The whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men of valor were 2,600. 13 And under their hand was an army, 300,000 and 7,500, that made war with mighty power, to help the king against the enemy. 14 And Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host shields, and spears, and helmets, and habergeons, and bows, and slings to cast stones. 15 And he made in Jerusalem engines, invented by cunning men, to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks, to shoot arrows and great stones withal. And his name spread far abroad, for he was marvelously helped, till he was strong. 16 But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction, for he transgressed against the Lord his God, and went into the temple of the Lord to burn incense upon the altar of incense. 17 And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of the Lord, that were valiant men. 18 And they withstood Uzziah the king, and said unto him, It appertaineth not unto thee, Uzziah, to burn incense unto the Lord, but to the priests the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for thou hast trespassed, neither shall it be for thine honor from the Lord God. 19 Then Uzziah was wroth, and had a censer in his hand to burn incense, and while he was wroth with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the house of the Lord, from beside the incense altar. 20 And Azariah the chief priest, and all the priests, looked upon him, and, behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they thrust him out from thence. Yea, himself hasted also to go out, because the Lord had smitten him. 21 And Uzziah the king was a leper unto the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house, being a leper, for he was cut off from the house of the Lord, and Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. Message. Many people believe that God only calls individuals into pulpit ministries. This is untrue. If God only calls people to serve him on the pulpit, then it means that he is leaving other important areas of life to the devil. Every believer has a calling in one area of life or the other. In the Bible, we see God calling people into government. Joseph was called into leadership, and his obedience preserved the lives of his people, Genesis 45:7. Daniel was also called to shine God's light in the government of idolatrous Babylon, and he obeyed. He served under several kings and fulfilled his calling to reveal the power and presence of God through his roles in the government, Daniel 6:25-28. Also, Nehemiah wasn't called into the office of a priest, he was called to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and he did this joyfully, Nehemiah 2:1-5. Esther stayed at her duty post in the government house before God called her into the influential position of the queen in the palace, Esther 2:16-17. Her submission to God saved the lives of the Jews when Haman, their enemy, plotted to destroy them, Esther 7. God also calls people into business. Lydia of Thyatira was a seller of purple, an expensive cloth worn by kings and queens. Only very rich people could afford her wares, and God positioned her there so that she could use her resources to advance the kingdom, Acts 16:14. God calls people to serve in different areas of life. Do you know the area He has called you into? People who live or move outside their places of calling will struggle because they have set themselves against God's purpose for their lives. In 2 Chronicles 26:16-21, the Bible tells us about King Uzziah, who decided to operate in another office that God did not call him into. As Israel's king, he enjoyed God's grace and favor until he decided to operate in the office of a priest. He went into the temple to burn incense and didn't return the same way. He came out leprous and was isolated. Whenever people operate in places God has not called them into, they become isolated from His grace and provision. Beloved, if God has called you to serve Him in any area of life, focus on your calling in that area. Do not compare yourself to other people who are flourishing in other areas. Obey God wholeheartedly in your calling, and you will experience His abundant grace and provision. Key point: find out what God has called you to do and focus on it. Him, take my life, and let it be.